This is the story of Denise Ivonne Jarvis Gongora, better known as Mary Magdalene, an extreme body modification influencer who built a following of 400,000 people by defying every conventional beauty standard you could imagine. On December 9th, 2025, at just 33 years old, she fell from the 9th floor of a hotel in Thailand, ending a life that had become both a celebration of radical self-expression and a warning about the pressures of online fame. Mary Magdalene wasn't just another influencer with a carefully polished feed. She was something far more complex, more vulnerable, and ultimately more human than her striking appearance might have suggested. With 38J breast implants weighing 11 pounds, dozens of surgeries, and vivid tattoo art covering her body, she had transformed herself into a living work of art that challenged everything we think we know about beauty, identity, and the limits of human modification. But behind the extreme modifications and the hundreds of thousands of followers lived a woman wrestling with pressures that most of us can barely comprehend. Her story isn't just about body modification or social media fame. It's about what happens when the line between performance and reality becomes so blurred that you can't tell where one ends and the other begins. To understand Mary Magdalene's final weeks, you have to understand what she represented in the body modification community. She wasn't hiding her procedures or pretending they came without consequences. She documented everything openly, sharing both the triumphs and the complications with brutal honesty. This transparency made her a trusted voice in a community where people often felt isolated and misunderstood. Her influence extended far beyond simple shock value. She normalized conversations about extreme cosmetic procedures and personal autonomy that had never been mainstream before. When people saw her posts, they weren't just seeing someone who looked different. They were seeing someone who had chosen to look different, who owned that choice completely, and who refused to apologize for it. But influence comes with a price, and by November 2025, cracks were beginning to show. On November 20th, just weeks before her death, Mary Magdalene was filmed in what would become a haunting preview of her final weeks. On the Phi Phi Islands in Thailand, she was captured on video being wheeled back to her hotel by bystanders and police officers, clearly intoxicated and disoriented. In the footage, you can hear her saying, "I don't know what's happening," before confirming, "I'm drunk." She appeared confused and vulnerable, a stark contrast to the confident, in-control persona her followers were used to seeing. This incident wasn't just a random night of partying gone wrong. It was a public glimpse into a private struggle that had been building for months. Those who knew her best could see that something fundamental was shifting. The woman who had built her entire brand on fearless self-expression was beginning to seem genuinely afraid. Eden Estrada, known as Eden the Doll, and one of Mary Magdalene's closest friends in the influencer world, had planned the entire Thailand trip around spending time with her. They were supposed to meet for what Eden described as a possible surgery, but their reunion never happened. Eden herself was dealing with physical pain and what she later described as being in a difficult mental state. The fact that two close friends, both successful influencers, both traveled to Thailand seeking some form of transformation or escape, and yet couldn't find their way to each other, speaks to something deeper than individual struggles. It suggests a systemic problem within the influencer community, where the pressure to maintain a perfect public image can prevent people from reaching out when they need help most. December the 9th started like many of Mary Magdalene's days in recent months with a post to her Instagram account. But this post was different. Instead of showcasing her latest modification or sharing a moment from her daily life, she posted a childhood photo of herself alongside a scene from Jim Carrey's 1998 film, The Truman Show. The specific scene she chose showed Truman's exit monologue, and she quoted his final words, "And in case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night." At the time, followers might have seen this as just another artistic post from someone known for her creativity. Looking back, it reads like a goodbye letter hidden in plain sight. The choice to include a childhood photo showing the person she was before all the modifications, adds another layer of heartbreak. It's as if she was reminding her followers, and perhaps herself, of who she had been before she became Mary Magdalene. Even more unsettling was a detail that emerged after her death. She had mysteriously changed the handle of one of her Instagram accounts to Mary Magdalene Died. This wasn't a posthumous change made by someone managing her accounts. This was something she did herself while she was alive, suggesting that she had been contemplating death for some time before that December afternoon. That afternoon, Mary Magdalene checked into the Patong Tower in Patong, Phuket, Thailand. She was scheduled to check out the next day, suggesting this was meant to be a brief stay. But less than 30 minutes after checking in, at approximately 1:50 p.m., she fell from the 9th floor balcony. Thai police found a pair of her flip-flops on the balcony, a detail that somehow makes the whole tragedy more real and more heartbreaking. These weren't dramatic final moments captured on camera for her followers. This was a private moment, alone on a hotel balcony in a foreign country, wearing flip-flops like any tourist on vacation. Her body was discovered in the parking area by other hotel guests. The police and her family confirmed her identity, and within hours, the news was spreading across social media platforms where she had spent so much of her life. The investigation into her death remains ongoing. Thai authorities have not yet released a full cause of death or ruled on whether the fall was accidental or intentional, but the circumstances surrounding her final weeks paint a picture of someone in deep distress, struggling with pressures that the public was only beginning to understand. Eden the doll learned about Mary Magdalene's death while on her flight home from Thailand. The timing is particularly cruel. While Eden was literally flying away from what was supposed to have been a reunion with her friend, Mary Magdalene was falling from a hotel balcony, dying hours after they were supposed to meet. In her tribute, Eden wrote, "While on my flight home last night, I found out she had passed away hours after we were supposed to meet. I am so devastated. Hold your loved ones close. You never know when it's the last time you'll see or speak them." The message contains an urgent plea that extends far beyond the influencer community. Eden's words suggest that even those closest to Mary Magdalene didn't fully grasp how much she was struggling, or perhaps they were struggling too much with their own problems to provide the support she needed. Mary Magdalene's brother Ivan offered a different perspective in his tribute, focusing on the sister he had known long before she became an internet sensation. "You are so funny and so creative, way more than I'll ever be. I love you much more than words will ever say. You are my world. I wish things were different. Thank you for everything. I love you, sis." The phrase, "I wish things were different," carries particular weight. It suggests regret, perhaps about choices made or opportunities missed to intervene. Family members of people in the public eye often struggle with how much to say publicly about private struggles, walking a careful line between respecting their loved one's autonomy and expressing their own concerns. Mary Magdalene's death has sparked urgent conversations about the hidden costs of influencer culture. On the surface, her life looked like a success story. She had hundreds of thousands of followers, financial independence from her content creation, and the freedom to express herself however she chose. She had turned her body into her canvas and her life into her art. But the darker side of that freedom was the pressure to constantly perform, to always be on, to turn every aspect of your existence into content for public consumption. When your body is your brand, what happens when you're not comfortable in that body? When your persona is built on fearlessness, how do you ask for help when you're afraid? The body modification community that Mary Magdalene helped to normalize faces unique challenges that mainstream society is only beginning to understand. The physical risks of extreme procedures are obvious, but the psychological impact of living in a dramatically altered body while under constant public scrutiny is less well understood. Mary Magdalene's openness about the complications she faced from her procedures was part of what made her such a trusted voice in her community. She didn't pretend that transformation was easy or without risk, but that honesty may have also isolated her in some ways, as she bore the burden of representing an entire community's struggles and aspirations. The timing of her death, coming at the end of 2025, feels symbolic in ways that are hard to ignore. She had spent years building herself into someone new, someone who challenged every convention about what a woman should look like or how she should behave. But in the end, she was still a 33-year-old human being, dealing with very human problems of loneliness, pressure, and pain. Her legacy extends far beyond the shock value of her appearance or the size of her social media following. She helped create space for conversations about bodily autonomy, personal choice, and the right to exist outside conventional beauty standards. She showed her followers that it was possible to take control of your own narrative, to refuse to apologize for who you chose to become. But her death also serves as a warning about the costs of that kind of radical self-expression when it becomes entangled with public performance and commercial success. The line between authentic self-expression and profitable content creation can become dangerously blurred, especially for someone whose body and identity have become inextricably linked with their brand. As the influencer community continues to mourn her loss, Mary Magdalene's story remains unfinished. The full investigation into her death may provide more answers about her final moments, but it won't answer the deeper questions her life and death have raised about fame, identity, and the price of living your life in public. What we're left with is the image of a woman who spent years transforming herself into exactly who she wanted to be, who built a community around that transformation, and who ultimately couldn't find a way to live with the weight of carrying that transformation in the spotlight. Her final Instagram post, quoting Truman's goodbye to his audience, suggests that she understood better than anyone how thin the line can become between performance and reality, between living your life and performing it. Mary Magdalene's tragedy isn't just that she died young, though that's heartbreaking enough. It's that she died alone, despite having hundreds of thousands of followers, despite being surrounded by a community that looked up to her, despite having friends who loved her and family who supported her. Her death reminds us that connection and community, no matter how large or passionate, can't always reach someone who's drowning in plain sight. The woman who changed her Instagram handle to Mary Magdalene died before she actually died understood something profound about the relationship between online personas and real human lives. She knew that Mary Magdalene, the character she had created and inhabited for years, was separate from Denise Ivonne Jarvis Gongora, the woman who put on flip-flops and stepped onto a hotel balcony in Thailand. In the end, perhaps that's the most important lesson from her story. Behind every influencer, every online persona, every carefully curated feed, there's a human being dealing with very human struggles. Mary Magdalene's life was a work of art, but her death reminds us that the artist and the art are not the same thing, and that losing sight of that distinction can have tragic consequences. Her brother's words, "I wish things were different," echo far beyond one family's grief. They speak to a broader wish that we could create a world where radical self-expression doesn't have to come with such a heavy price, where influence doesn't have to mean isolation, and where the people who help us see beauty in unconventional places can find their own peace in the world they've helped to create.